So again, interpreting Karta's jailbreak and voluntary reincarceration may just come down to our preferred reflexive assumptions. One, apes are not like us, so therefore this is just the story of a troublesome subhuman who's clever enough to escape captivity, but fundamentally lazy. The meal ticket wins out over the will to freedom, and the dumb animal returns to where the food trough is. Or, two, apes are like us, and so suffering led to a bid for freedom, that freedom to knowledge, and that knowledge to acceptance of life as it's known, rather than chancing the unknown. I suggest to you this morning that the latter reading is the truer. It is certainly the richer reading. And even if you dispute the appropriateness of bestowing human rights upon great apes, you'd have to agree that in not doing so, you'd be taking away from them more than you'd be giving them. For Karta's case shows that they are more like us, even in our suffering, even at our most fearful, even at our most morally timid. What if we were to grant the great apes a dignity and a personhood equal to our own, given that the differences are a matter of degree? Well, we might shake our head at the destruction of unborn fetuses in abortion clinics, but we're talking here about a being with the intelligence of a 5-year-old, as well as a capacity to suffer, and which we have typically regarded historically as less than human. Wouldn't we then have to reevaluate what makes us human, what makes us special? Maybe, just maybe, we're not all that special after all, and our sense of superiority to nature is an illusion, and that we're more intimately linked to lower forms of life than we might care to admit. That like us, the apes are born and grow up and die in a fix, and maybe, like us, they also know it. And if we allow that one small step toward acknowledging rights for great apes, why stop at apes? Why not grant dignity and freedom to all sentient beings, not eat them, not cage them, not experiment on them, not wear their skin and fur? Really begin to live as though we share this planet and its resources, this complex experience we call life in the world, that there is more that unites us than divides us. Would this also not grant us a greater dignity too? Do we not become more nobly human when we grant human dignity to others? Well, that's a parallel reality that social movement groups like PETA, People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, and GRASP, this is a great acronym, GRASP, the Great Ape Standing and Personhood Project, envision. A world of truly open hearts where we venerate the miracle of all sentient beings, not just our own species. I mean, the very notion of species is specious. These categories of beings were, after all, artificially imposed by human thinking. Perhaps we'd be a little less neurotically self-centered, a little less in love with the notion of us alone occupying the summit of creation, the tip of the Darwinian tree. And more worryingly, it's that anthropocentric assumption of human specialness that underlies all traditional fundamentalist religion, that God made humans special. The theory of evolution and Karta's story messily blurs the divide between us and our planet mates. Yes, the notion of evolution has made many shaved apes nervous. I believe God made me in one day. Yep, looks like you rushed it. For myself, I think given the choice, I'd rather be descended from a wily ape than from a bigoted fundamentalist nincompoop any day. When we go to the zoo, we already sense in our bones the connections with the great apes, which is, I think, why for a while the whole world wanted to know about Karta. We want her to be free, having richly earned it, and because we feel we can't be. We want her to be free for us. And this is why, in my imagination at least, I provide the Hollywood happy ending to this story. I see a lone hominid sitting atop a wall, scaled triumphantly as part of a self-willed evolution into personhood, gazing off into an unknown world, at the strange city, at the hills which ring the Garna Plains. But instead of slinking back off to rejoin the safe and the known, I see her take a deep breath, leap from the wall, and tear off through the park, bounding away, skirting the shrieking hominids who are holding ice cream and chips up to their frozen, gaping mouths, heading for the thickets, clambering nimbly up the trees and out of the grounds, off toward the vegetated hills as the sun begins to set, running to find Pusung, and if not Pusung, to just keep going, living by silence and cunning in exile. And as it's my fantasy, I'm there, of course, and I'm cheering her on, voice catching in my throat as I cry, "Run, Karta, run, and don't look back!" But that's not how it played out, of course. And in her return, we see a pretty clear image of our own self-maintained, well-appointed prison. Like most of us, I don't know perfectly how to make myself happy, but I would be depressed to think that, like Karta, we just can't handle freedom. That, like her, we're just not ready yet. But maybe, we're set to evolve too. Maybe when we realize that we have internalized the mechanisms of our own control, have willfully disempowered ourselves, then we might begin looking around for the tools to short-circuit our offenses with. And then, who knows what we might become. Well, the story of Karta has a postscript you'll be interested to know. Karta has a new male friend who is kind and loving towards her. And rumor is she's expecting. And if there is a heaven, I feel sure Pusung would be smiling at this. He would smile to know that grief comes to an end, that love can be reborn, and that the genes are passed on as the pageant of life rolls ever onward. And if the child of this union thrives, armed with Karta's genes, who knows what it might become? Amen.